one is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. Of course, he's a nature lover, philosopher, professor, and a podcast host as well. And an author and the author of the book Original Love, the timeless source of coolness. None other than Mr. Glenn Aparicio Parry. Welcome. Welcome, Mr. Glenn. On Book 101 Review, and can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss? Mr. Glenn, I cannot hear you. A while ago, I can hear you. Now I cannot hear you. People, we're talking about the book of Mr. Glenn, Original Love. But for the meantime, we have a difficulties because I cannot hear him. And we apologies for that. While we're fixing. Yes, here we go. I can hear you now, Mr.
You
Glenn.
can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, wonderful. I was
So can you?
saying,
Yes, go ahead.
I learned from Nick. Can you still hear me? I see it coming in
Yes,
and
I
out.
can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I begin with gratitude. You know, it's a miracle that we're alive, that we are breathing the air that the ancestors have been breathing. We're walking softly upon the earth that the ancestors have been walking upon. We're feeling the light from the sun from 93 million miles away. It's giving us just the right amount of light, warmth, and energy. That is a miracle. It's all miraculous. And love is was there at the very beginning. Love has always been here. Love will always be here. Love is like what unites the elements. That's really what it's about. Now, you could say, as you were introducing, I am an author. I've been an author of Original Love, The Timeless Source of Wholeness. Before that, Original Politics, Making America Sacred Again, and Original Thinking, a radical revisioning of time, humanity, and nature. Those are the three books in a trilogy that I had no idea I was writing until my wife told me 7.5 years ago, you're going to write a book called Original Love. That's Tomoko. I've been married to her then for 30 years. Since then, another seven, so 37 years. And she just told me my future. And then another woman from Taos, New Mexico, named Jean Ellis Sankari, a year and a half later, tells me the same thing. She interrupts herself in the middle of a sentence and says, I just got a download. You're going to write a book called Original Love, and it will be the third in a three-part series with original in the title. And so that's when I knew I was writing a trilogy. In a way, the book was in the hands of the ancestors. The book, the whole trilogy, it's always the dream of the ancestors, the dream of the earth. And my role is to accept. It just simply was to accept that and then to go forward and be a conduit to what Mother Earth wants to happen. And that's really what the book is about, mostly about love. It's about remembrance for love for Mother Earth, love for the flowers, love for the trees, love for the bees. Love is it's in everything. It's in everything. It's so beautiful, actually. And I don't mean to for people that are suffering, That's in the book too, because I talk about how love evokes wholeness and wholeness evokes love. But all of us have suffered when we feel love disappear, when we feel loss, then we need to recover by through love, through understanding that love permeates all. That's it in a nutshell, Daniel.
Indeed. So, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Glenn. Thank you for the love that you are sharing to others. Hoping for more and more inspiring love to come. So, original love, by definition, is love before conditions, before performance, before the fall. For someone who's never experienced unconditional acceptance of the human relationships, is original love a memory, a hope, or an imagination?
It's much more of a memory. Um, uh, all my books have original in the title for a reason, because it goes back to what Leroy Little Bear was asking uh, in a dialogue circle that brought in native elders and Western scientists. He asked, is it possible to come up with an original thought? This was on July 4th, 1999, at the Sheraton in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He asked this question, and this very interesting thing happened, Daniel. All the Western people in the room, with the exception of one or two, tried desperately to think of something brand new that had never been said before and never been done before. Where the indigenous people took the question completely differently, as an invitation to connect with origin as a place. And that's when I realized that Western culture had replaced place with time. So, what do I mean by that? What does it mean to replace place with time? Well, first of all, ask a Western mathematical cosmology about the origin of the cosmos, and they will talk about time only. 13.8 billion years ago in a quantum singularity, someplace. Where it was, they really don't deal with that. But if you ask a native elder about the origin of the cosmos, or the origin of their existence on the earth, ask a Hopi elder, for instance. He will take you to the confluence of the Big Colorado River and the Little Colorado River. That's a sacred sipapu, which is a Hopi word for where the emergence point is. So the so for indigenous people, and this is also for myself, I would say, although I'm only Basque, Aragon Spanish, and Jewish, I'm not really an indigenous person in a Native American sense, only indigenous from Europe. And for me, it's more about memory. It's more about remembering. I personally love all the re words in the English language: to remember, to restory, to recollect, to revitalize. All the re words are beautiful because the origin is not something, the beginning. It's a source. It's like an eternal well. It's a little bit like what Gene Gabeser wrote about. And he was a writer that was writing in German in 1949 and 1953. It wasn't his book, Ursprung und Gegenwart, which is, I apologize for my German, but this means in English the eternal spring. The Ursprung is where things spring up from. That was translated into English as the ever present origin, not until 1985. And I happen to be the president of the Gene Gabeser Society now, not because I'm the best Gabeser scholar, but I do feel Gabeser in my heart, because that's why I wanted to write about love from this perspective. The book about love is partly Gebserian, which means it traces the evolution of consciousness. It really traces the co-evolution of love, humanity, nature, and consciousness. Love, humanity, nature, and consciousness. Another way of looking at it is that it's tracing things in nature from seed to root to bud to fruit, because that's the way nature is. And still another way of looking at it is the way the Mongolian shamans did. They spoke about originally there's the era of earth when we felt we were in the womb of the mother. Then there's the era of sky where we felt that there were spiritually enlightened societies. The era, and then there becomes the era of man, which is when we develop our rational minds and we have mastery over nature. But what is coming or re-emerging is the era of woman, when we re-emphasize the relationality between ourselves, other beings, and also the earth and the cosmos. That's what's coming. That's what indigenous people have been talking about for a long time. That's what is emerging. So the book is largely about the reemergence of both indigenous and feminine wisdom, because Daniel, I had an epiphany when I was writing this book. I had been studying indigenous wisdom for over 40 years, but I didn't realize how much indigenous wisdom is tied with sacred, original feminine wisdom. They're both very old ways of knowing that need to be revitalized and are reemerging. It's not a coincidence, Daniel, that in the 1970s, both Native studies programs and women's studies programs started. And am not discouraged by the recent turn of events where there's a pushback and there's actually some women's studies programs being eliminated. They're considered too much inclusion, but there's a pushback against so-called DEI. You don't often hear it spelled out as diversity, equity, and inclusion, because I challenge people to say I'm against diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's harder to be against than something that's just an abstract acronym, don't you think?
Mm, certainly. So, Mr. Glenn, every tradition has a name of this agape, chess, Brahman, the mother. But the moment you name it, you risk containing it. How do you speak about original love without imprisoning it in doctrine?
Oh, you're so right. You're so right. It was a famous architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, who said, "To define it is to confine it."
Hmm.
And that's the problem with definitions about love. Love is actually more than any definition about love. Love is more than an emotion. Love is more than even a foundational vibration. Love is so immense, so powerful, that it's really better to think about it in terms of the beauty of nature. That's what I would say. And that's why poems like Rumi's poem, at night I open the window and ask the moon to come and press its face against mine. Breathe into me. Close the language door and open the love window. The moon won't use the door, only the window. That's a poem I cite in the book because I really feel it in my heart. It's similar to what my wife Tomoko told me about Natsume Soseki, who was this professor of English in Japan in the Meiji era, a long time ago now. But he assigned his students the English "I love you" and asked them to translate it. And they translated it as "Kimi o Aisu." And they did that because the word "kimi" means you, and the word "I" means love. So they were giving him a literal translation. But Soseki says, "Oh, no, no, that's not the correct translation. The right translation would be Honya no ski ga kere desu ne," which in English means, "The moon is beautiful tonight, isn't it?" And that's why, and I'm holding my book up, but you already have the cover of the book there. That's why I have the moon on the cover. The moon is a very, very powerful reflector of consciousness. That's what grandfather Leon Secatero taught me. He taught me that if you wanted to send thoughts, and grandfather Leon Secatero, for benefit of your viewers and listeners, is he was the head man of the Canyoncito band of Navajo in New Mexico. And he taught me that if you want to send thoughts to somebody else, you should send them through the moon. And he said that because the moon is a reflector of consciousness. What you send to the moon, because think about it, light is consciousness, and the moon reflects light back to the earth. That makes it such a powerful, deep symbol, a little like the ocean, too. It's just so deep, it becomes unfathomable. Unfathomable. I can't even say that word. How
Mm-hmm.
immensely powerful the moon can be. The moon, the oceans, all the beauty of nature is it's so gorgeous to see a lotus plant that roots on the bottom of a pond in the muck and mire, but reemerges and unfurls its beautiful petals. That's love too. That's love. Flowers are love. That's why I always keep orchids nearby. They're a good symbol of love.
Mm-hmm.
Are you getting the
Definitely.
feeling? Are you getting the feeling for this book, Daniel? Are you
Oh,
getting it?
yes.
Okay,
Definitely.
good.
Definitely, Mr. Glenn. Love, love, love is on the air.
Thank you.
Many mystics suggest that our longing for wholeness itself prove that wholeness exists, that the hunger implies food. Is the ache of separation evidence of original love, or is that just confront we tell ourselves?
Ah, yes, the ache, the separation that we feel, most of that comes from the Western predilection, and it's built into our language. We have a subject object divisive language, not just in English, by the way, but any Indo-European language has that subject object separation built in. It also became reinforced in the Renaissance when linear perspective came in art, and then we started to imagine that our eye was separate from the natural world. It didn't used to be like that. It used to be, in fact, it changed in Leonardo da Vinci's lifetime. It used to be that we thought of the natures as emanating consciousness back to us. All of the world was alive, all the world was vibrating. And then we started to actually appropriate consciousness for ourselves, almost steal time, and we began to think that only we are conscious and everything else we gave a secondary consciousness to. That's part of it. But if you really want to talk about separation, the best story for it, Daniel, comes from a story that Plato told in the Symposium through the character of Aristophanes, who was a real man. He lived in 480 BC to 360 BC. But in the story, he's a fictional character, and he tells the story. It's such a beautiful story. I'll tell it to you in a couple of minutes. Originally, all of us, all humans. Now, this you may think this is a fictional story, but that doesn't really matter. It's compelling. Originally, they say in this story that all beings were double sexed beings in a single body. And by double sex, we had two sets of genitalia. We also had four arms and four legs. We only had one head, but we had two faces. Two faces. This is how the old story goes. And we could move very fast because we had those four arms and four legs. We could do cartwheels. And eventually, the gods said, "These humans are too powerful. We need to cut them in half like a flatfish." So this is
Mm.
what they did according to the old story. And then what happened? The humans, that most of which were male and female, but some were female, female, male, male, or even androgynous beings. But most of them were male, female. So that when they were cut apart, they just hugged each other and they didn't eat, they didn't sleep. And eventually they started to die. And that's when the gods took pity upon the humans. They rearranged their genitalia, this is the way the story goes, so they could have
Uh-huh.
sexual intercourse while hugging, and they could perpetuate the species because the old story, and I didn't put this in the book, but the old story said we actually used to reproduce by throwing our seed on the ground like a cicada.
Oh.
So you may think this you may think this story is just fanciful, just false, but how many people talk about finding their other half and feeling like a sense of completeness? So this goes to your question. There is a possibility to feel a sense of completion, but I do want to caution your viewers and listeners because really you can find this sense of completion not just through a partner. You can find this sense of completion by being connected to all there is, to that breath. You're breathing in the same breath that the ancestors breathed in. You're feeling the same light from the sun that the ancestors breathed in. You're stepping upon Mother Earth, the same earth that the ancestors breathed in. And you're drinking the same water that the ancestors breathed in. So we're always connected with the whole. We're always connected with the whole. Remember the Human Genome Project? Remember
Mhm.
that? They
Yes.
thought that they were going to do this project to show how unique human beings were. But what did they find out? We actually share 98.5% the same DNA as a chimpanzee and 50% the same DNA as a banana. Now, you know what that means? It means we're interconnected with everything. We're interconnected with everything. And that's actually very beautiful. And it makes me feel love. Love is what makes me expand my consciousness. Love is what makes me feel so whole, so full. And I do come back to that even in the hardest times. I mean, we're in war now, I mean, it's horrible to think about some things, but what does give me hope, what gives me joy, what gives me life is that we are interconnected with everything. Love is this foundational force. Love is this beautiful vibration, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere, and it's throughout nature. And that is really, really beautiful and very uplifting. Are you there?
Beautiful, beautiful indeed, Mr. Glenn. And to wrap up our discussion for today, if you could whisper one truth into the ear of every human alive today about what we will become and what will be the truth be, what will be the comfort us or terrify us?
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to terrify anybody. So,
Yes.
I would say this: love is already inside your heart, and it's a little bit like the lotus rooting on the bottom of the pond. Just be patient, be kind, be compassionate, and allow that love to flower. It will.
Well, that's so beautiful said, Mr. Glenn. So, can you please invite our listeners to support Original Love and other
Well, you can
books?
you can go to my website. The easiest thing to remember is originalthinking.us. So originalthinking And that's where you can find original love, original politics, and original thinking, and more. Thank you.
And more. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Glenn Aparicio Parry, because if you support him, for sure, more and more love will rise. Don't you think?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Daniel.
You are
Many
most
blessings to you.
welcome.
Love
You're
and
most
blessings
welcome.
to you.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Yes. And more to come, people. See you soon.